Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right. I am Don Palacio.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar, and thank you for joining us this morning.
That's right. Thank you so very much. We're blessed with having you. The weather is beautiful outside, Marlene. It looks so good, and it has been bright since, what, 3 o'clock this morning?
It feels that way, yeah, yeah.
You know, I wake up at about 5, a little before 5 in the morning time.
Yeah.
And when I wake up in the morning, it's already, you know, at
sunny and bright.
4:30 minutes to 5, it's already bright. They're like, huh? What's up?
Yeah, it's summer.
Yeah, it is summertime. It's actually approaching. It's coming close. But nonetheless, you know, there's a lot to unfold. We know that this is going to be, it continues to be a very interesting week with respect to news and all the things that's happening in our country.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I'll ship it worldwide. You know, a lot of things are happening. But keeping it here at home, we saw in the news yesterday the amount of violence that's plaguing Belize City. That's plaguing the country on a whole, but more so, yesterday was also one of those days to reflect. And when I say reflect, I'm talking about all the strike actions that took place. Yesterday marked what?
Day 12.
Day 12 for BNTU.
Yeah.
The most they've done was actually 11 days. Yesterday was day 12. And so we did a reflection in the newscast last night.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, I think that's one of the questions we still have lingering. Yesterday, Cabinet met, where the negotiating team should have discussed the proposals that the unions put forward at the end of last week. And then tomorrow, the unions and government go back to the table. It is becoming a very drawn-out process at this point, and we saw the unions still go out and picket in front of the House of Culture. And, you know, the question remains whether or not there will be a resolution by the end of this week.
Definitely. We know that they'll be meeting tomorrow, like you rightly mentioned. But there's also that lingering, it's not about the 10%, it's more about good governance.
Yeah.
Some folks are saying it's about the 10%, because not everybody is able to actually withstand what the 10% is going to do to their pocket.
Yeah, you know, and I get the sense when we see the stories coming out from the protest that the individual members, they all have a different view. Some are talking about good governance, and some are talking about the salary cuts, and then you have the leaders who are the ones at the negotiating table as well. So there are a lot of parties involved, a lot of individual persons who are you know, a part of the decision-making process. So as we said, up to this morning, there's no official update coming out as to what the next direction will be. We do know that the meeting with the unions and the government takes place tomorrow, and we will be sure to keep you updated as to how that goes.
That's right, keeping on top of things. That is what we do here at 5. But also, finally for me, with respect to our discussion, the coronavirus pandemic. We, here in our country over the weekend, recorded 4 recoveries and 4 new cases. Yes, yesterday actually, not over the weekend. I'm sorry. I feel like it's Monday. Yes, it's actually Wednesday. But nonetheless, yesterday recorded 4 recoveries and 4 new cases. And I think it's kept at somewhere around 6 to 7 active cases, somewhere around there. But it goes to show that it actually lingers, because there are times we've got some spikes, and at times it goes down. It should put in your mind, Belizeans, that what we're supposed to do is to adhere to all the protocols and all the measures with respect to making sure that we're safe. We have to keep each other's safe. Now, going out there, take a vaccine.
Yeah, you know, it's It's been, I think it's maybe 2 weeks now
Yeah.
that we have phase 1 of the vaccination rollout going back for their second dose.
Oh, wow. Yes,
So you
yes,
have
yes.
the elderly and vulnerable population going back. I know my mom got her second
Aw.
jab, and it's a matter of waiting because you're not immediately protected.
Yeah.
So you have to give that time after that second shot, and it just is such a relief when you can finally know that there is a level of protection that is now in place
Yeah,
for
yeah.
your loved ones in your family.
Yeah.
That is an incredible feeling, and it's really great that we're
Yeah.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so cautious when we talk about the COVID numbers, because I know when we say, oh, we're doing good, it does give you that sense of relaxation,
Yeah, like
that perhaps
ease.
if there aren't that many cases out there, I don't have to be as comfortable.
Yeah.
I think it's always important that we add to the numbers that are reported that those are the people who've been captured in the system.
Yeah.
And the really sneaky, devilish thing about this disease is that there are people like you, like me, who look perfectly healthy and no symptoms whatsoever, who may be carriers, who
Yeah.
may have COVID and be passing it on to others, which is why we really can never let our guard down because we are still we're still trying to keep everything under control. We had a
Definitely.
conversation yesterday with doctors from India, and that was a part of the advice that they had. You keep the protocols going, you get vaccinated, because as they battle what is such a tragic second wave, they know that they had relaxed measures. They had mass gatherings and political rallies and religious events, and they just saw a massive outbreak that followed.
Yeah, and it's so heartbreaking to see what's going on there. But their population is huge. They've got what, 1 billion people, and so we just need to continue to adhere to the protocols, all
Yeah.
the safety measures that we normally do. Wash your hands for the 20 seconds. When last you wash your hands for 20 seconds? That's the question. You need to continue to do that. Wear your mask wherever you go, and try to stay home as much as possible. Please, let's continue to adhere to all the protocols that have been put in place for us.
That's right. And remember to get vaccinated. The vaccination rollout continues, and you can make your appointment through the Ministry of Health. There's an app that there's a website that they're using as well, so you can do that there. Find out where the nearest clinic is, or if they'll have a mobile clinic coming around you in your village or in your town, where you can be able to access that vaccine as well.
Yeah.
I know people are concerned about the side effects. I hear that. But the side effects are nothing compared to severe COVID.
Yeah.
And we've heard countless stories of people who have faced long-term symptoms after, still
Yeah,
not feeling well, long after they get it. So it's better to be safe.
Great parting shot there, because you are right. But now you know exactly what's going on in the news. We scratched the globe with respect to a few of the stories that have been taking place over the week. But it's that time of the morning whereby we give you some motivation.
That's right. Time for the eye-opener, taken from dailyom.com. It goes like this. Fear of the future can paralyze us, but we can allow it to unfold easily when we keep to the present moment. Though much human fare is based on uncertainty, foreknowledge does not always ease the mind. It is often when our futures look brightest that our resolve crumbles and we veer off course. Fear of the future is often closely intermingled with the fear that growing into your own potential will both change you irrevocably and force you to face situations for which you aren't ready. It is normal to unconsciously project ahead into the future and see success as a great weight bearing down on you. Assume that your fear is based on a false assumption and quell it with facts. Try to disregard past patterns and focus on the present by stilling the inner voice that comments critically on all you do. Tell yourself that the inevitably of your success is based on luck or a universal mistake, but on your already established talents, drive, imagination, and inner strength. Each time you overcome your fear of the future, you chip away at its very foundations. Eventually, you will clear a gap through which you can gaze upon the future with unhindered optimism.
I read through it a few times this morning. Trying to get a clear picture of exactly what it's trying to tell me. But what resonates the most for me, and as I read it, it came to mind, fear of the future can paralyze us, but we can allow it to unfold easily when we keep to the present moment. This is one of those live in the moment type of things that caught my mind. Also, that what catched my mind, fear of the future is often closely intermingled with fear that growing into your own potential will both change and irrevocably, I think I got that correctly, and force you to face situations for which you aren't ready. And when I read that part, it reminds me of the pandemic. We were never ready. We are never ready, especially when it comes to an instantaneous change. If you're not ready, especially for what the future has to offer, it becomes overwhelming, especially if it bears down on you like there and then. And Marlene, it happens in the household, it happens personally, it happens every day that something can happen to change your future or actually bear down on you, and the weight is there. But it was clear, eventually you will clear a gap through which you can gaze upon the future with unhindered optimism. There are a lot of people right now, Marlene, especially through the pandemic, have lost jobs. And now they've created an empire. Mm-hmm. Things have changed, and because they focused on how to, they actually catch the bull by the horn and say, you know what, I am not going down with this, is when they've got now their unhindered optimism. I really like the eye-opener because it speaks to us directly.
Yeah, I think the pandemic is one great example of how we respond to change. For me, when I read the eye-opener, I think it brings to light something we don't talk about, and that's, we understand that uncertainty is something that scares us at times. Naturally, we're adapt to kind of building processes and routines. You know what you're going to do every day. You know what your job is about. Yeah, it changes day to day, but you know how to execute and what to execute. And then suddenly you're catapulted into a new environment, and it is scary. Mm-hmm. You don't know anymore. You have to chart a new way forward. Mm-hmm. And that can be something that really becomes difficult for us to adapt to. Change in general. Not everyone embraces change. There are some people who are great at it.
Yes.
But they are the minority. The majority look at it and see, what am I going to do? And that fear of the unknown can be crippling. But beyond that, the fear of success is something that we don't talk about. Everyone thinks that success is something. I remember once hearing a graduation speech of a young person who was talking about how he was so driven towards his goal and didn't realize how fearful that moment of success would be for him. Mm-hmm. And his whole purpose is when you realize a dream, what comes next? If you know what you're working towards, what comes next? And it really is one of those moments where you sit back and you're like, wow, people can actually sabotage themselves, hold themselves back, because sometimes the act of actually accomplishing it could be scary enough. And it doesn't mean, I mean, till you hear it, you're like, wow, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it was such a powerful speech, and I remember that. And that's exactly what came to mind.
Nice.
But the point is that it shouldn't be a roadblock for you. It shouldn't slow you down. You know what happens when you reach that goal? You set a new one to go after. And it sounds very casual to say in the moment itself it's something different.
It is.
But it's a lovely eye-opener to kind of put things back into perspective, that even when the fear sets in, as it undoubtedly does, anytime there is a change, you must have trust in yourself and trust in the process and keep on pushing.
That's right. Assume that your fear is based on a false assumption and quell it with facts. That part part stays with me as well because it is true. Well, with facts, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got the facts, you can't go wrong. The facts are there. It's right there for you.
All right, but we got to get moving. Our eye-opener is actually a part of one of the conversations we'll be having today, but we'll tell you about that in just a few. Let's check in on our weather first, and we have Francisca Wellington on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
And how are you?
Welcome, bright and happy.
Yes, man.
And how are you today?
I'm doing good, thanks.
All right. So let's get on with it. We know that the weather has been very hot. Will we continue to see that trend? What's the general situation going to be like?
Yes, we will for about the next 24, I should say. Okay, so we'll be seeing sunny skies today, a few cloudy spells, partly cloud skies tonight, and isolated showers.
All right. And the 24-hour forecast?
Okay.
Okay, that's what you just told us a while ago.
Say that again, John?
The 24-hour forecast.
Okay, so generally fair, isolated showers, sunny during the daytime, partly cloudy at night.
All right. So the temperatures for today, will it be hot?
More or less like the past few days, 88 along the coast, 95 inland, 84 in the Maya Mountains, and overnight, 82 along the coast, 77 inland, and 66 up in the Maya Mountains.
All right, sounding cool in the Maya Mountains later on tonight. And let me see here. And the outlook, what should we expect for the next few days?
Okay, Thursday, we'll continue to see isolated showers. Thursday night, we'll see a slight increase in shower activity along with isolated thunderstorms over the southern districts. And this will continue on Friday, part of Saturday, decreasing Saturday night.
All right. Well, Francisca, any advisories, watches, warnings?
Not that the time, only that we have the fire forecast, and fire risk is very high around the country.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank you so very much. Thank you for updating us with the weather.
You are welcome.
Do enjoy your day, Francisca.
Thanks, same to you.
All right. So now we know exactly what to expect when it comes to the weather. Like Francisca did mention, look, it's going to be hot for a few days, and we want for you to stay hydrated, make sure that you're feeling cool, and be as calm as possible. And with that said, we've got our packed show lined up for you this morning. As a matter of fact, the first one we'll be discussing, all right?
Yeah. So the first, so for today, of course, one of the things that we did want to put into perspective, there was a major tragedy over the weekend where a mother and child was killed in a fire, and it has put the conversation once again back into perspective about gender-based violence and violence within relationships as well. So today we will be talking about with the Women's Department and the Police Department, what to do if you or your loved one are in a domestic violence situation, how you can get out safely. We're going to have that whole conversation today to put it into perspective.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. Also, how to file a complaint. So there are so many things that we'll be breaking down this morning with respect to the first conversation. In the second one, Marlene, we rightly mentioned, especially when it comes to the eye opener for this morning, and how it actually puts us on pace to when it comes to the future, what to expect and how it could bear down on you. The importance of having a vision and taking control of your mind to achieve it. So we'll be discussing that in our second segment this morning.
All right, and to close off for today, we're going to be having a conversation about an upcoming run to raise funds. I know this is right up your alley, John. John jumped up like, okay, sign me up. All right, so that's going to be the final conversation for those of you, and there are so many who are out there exercising. It's a great thing to see, whether you're going to walk, whether you're going to, speed walk, or whether you're going to jog or really do a run. You'll get all the details in the final part of our show.
That's right. I've taken part in some of those. It's just take care of it. It's leaving and getting back to your destination. It's very easy. But before we take that break, because we've got a break coming up, we've got our birthday shout out. And we would like to say a big, big, big happy birthday to none other than Lois Crawford. Oh, Big Lou, that's my buddy.
Go.
Happy birthday
Part
to
of
you,
our
man.
team here at Channel 5. He comes in at nighttime to work with the news. Crawford, I hope you have a great day today. I hope they cook for you. I hope everyone feels you, makes it nice and special.
I know,
and
right?
do save me a piece of cake.
I'll tell you what, he's out there working out as well. I meet him every morning.
Yes, he does. He goes for
every
a walk.
evening. He's always out there. It's actually living that healthy lifestyle. So Crawford, once again, happy birthday to you, coming from your entire family and, of course, your Channel 5 family. Wishing you many more. We'll take the break. When we come back, we'll jump directly into our first conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our equipment, our new PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBS. Actually, right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. But that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members, since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
Hola, Tony.
Hey Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
Available now at Bravo Motors.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. For CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're now moving into our first segment of the morning. And there was a story in the news over the weekend. A lady and her son lost their lives in a tragic accident. You know, I get emotional about it simply because I've got my wife and children, and I try to decipher what goes through someone's mind with respect to hurting their loved ones. This situation is very close to home for many, as a matter of fact, for all of us as Belizeans. But what we need to do is that we need to decipher how to deal with these situations. For people who are going through it, what should you do? What can you do? And how you could fend for yourself. Well, of course, with the professional help, we've got Michelle Irving, who is the Women's Development Officer from the Women and Family Support Unit, of course, the Women's Department. We also have Cynthia Williams, who is the Executive Director at the National Women's Commission. And we have ASP Martha Rees, who is the Officer Commanding Domestic Violence Unit. Good morning and welcome to all of you.
Good morning all, and thank you for having us.
All right.
Good morning as well.
Good morning too.
The current situation at B with respect to how we're feeling, for me, is a sad one. And I'm feeling that way because we've lost a mother and a son. We've lost a loved one. We've lost great people in this country to domestic violence. I want to firstly get to Michelle Irving. Michelle, and I'll stick to that particular story. Your thoughts on it, what went through your mind, and how you felt hearing about it?
Well, good morning again, everybody. And again, this is a sad reality. And for me, in my work, it's very difficult to pinpoint just one incident, because if you realize that daily we hear about horrible stories. Yes, sometimes people do not lose their lives, but the way they're living, the threat of violence, their mental health, their physical well-being, it's deplorable. It's sometimes torturous. And so at the end of it all, when we are focusing on this particular incident, just to highlight in depth, and it is sad because as a community, a child was, a very young, a baby, and a mother and a baby being killed because of the obsession and the control and the power that is wielded by somebody just because they could do it, they did it. But the lives that women and children and sometimes men live every day, it's also very difficult. So I often say with the work that we do, we have to be very strong mentally, because we have to use a lot of that energy to be able to support people to get through one day to the next. So in highlighting this situation, I would like to then bring to bear the situations that people live in daily, and how as a society we need to understand that violence is not normal, violence is not acceptable, and violence in the home is a human rights violation, it's a violation of a person, it's deplorable. It causes trauma, it causes lifelong effects on those who endure the violence and those who have witnessed the violence. So I think what we're seeing, especially in our society, is that sometimes we become numb towards the violence. We become incensed towards what is going on. And so we as social workers, as defenders of human rights, as supporters of people who empower others, we have to continue to stay strong. And we definitely are happy for the support of the media to make sure that we get the word out every day that this is not normal, this is not the way human beings supposed to be living in their society, or not the way we construct our society. So we have to make that shift. We have to make that paradigm shift, and we all have to be able to support others to ensure that they ultimately live a life free of violence. So that's my thoughts on it this morning, John. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you know, it's such an important point that you have made, that this story, this tragedy that has spurred the conversation that we're seeing today is one of several. And in fact, there are women there are families that are on the brink of these near-death scenarios more frequent than we know. And it's usually the team here, the organizations represented in this panel that would be called to spring into action. Let's get some clarity about that now. How does the Women's Department, the Women's Commission, and the Domestic Violence Unit work together? What's the structure that's in place there?
Well, for us at the Women's Department, I am stationed in Dangriga, the Stein Creek District. I am the Women's Development Officer for this area. We have a domestic violence unit at our police department, and we have a DV officer stationed here. Apart from that, we also have the police department, the regular, maybe they're not in the DVU, but they also respond to violence, or should respond to any case of domestic violence as well. So what would happen is we would have, for the Women's Commission, I think it would be more of working with the Commission, for example, on the gender-based violence committees, more of policy kind of direction, and ensure, for example, the complaint mechanisms, ensure that the environment is conducive to people getting the best quality service. So in that case, but we could work daily with the DVU, or weekly on a more regular basis. Let's put it like that.
So you have the policymakers, that would be, or those who help to guide policy and advocate. That's you at the Women's Commission, Cynthia, and your team there. Then you have the individual women's department, like where you're at, Michelle, where you help women in many different ways, and one of them includes dealing with family violence and liaising with the police. Let's get
and the courts.
And the courts. You're right. Let's get ASP Reese into the conversation, because the Domestic Violence Unit is a critical component here. And I want to start off with the basics here, ASP Reese. Let's talk about the team that you have. Are there enough officers trained to respond to domestic violence situations?
Well, as in anything, human resources are always something that we're lacking. Because where domestic is concerned, it's really something that it's not put to the forefront. We know when it comes to the police department, we have different types of crimes, and sometimes we might focus more on one aspect than the other. None is less serious than the other, of course. But where domestic violence is concerned, we would want more human resources, because it is really a serious situation. And it is very much sometimes underscored, when it comes to making complaints. We have, of course, offices countrywide, but when it comes to Belize City is the only district that has 24 hours in the city, where we have most citizens, the biggest population. So when it comes to making the complaints, the only office that does 24 hours is Belize City. That is not saying that a report cannot be made. It's just that the DV officers who actually deals with these situations in the districts, they are from 8 to 5, and then other than that, then the uniformed officers would respond.
And the DV officers are trained specifically to address these situations.
Yes, we have continuous trainings.
Yeah.
We weren't, it is on-the-job training most DV officers get. And it's constant. They always have in-service training. They have different trainings that the Women's Commission does. We have different entities who would offer training. You know, we had one recently with the Youth Enhancement Services hosted by them. So training is always ongoing.
So how often are you fielding calls of complaints?
Of domestic violence, yes.
Well, when it comes to calls of complaints in the city, it's constant. I'll give you one example, which was Saturday. We had our hands full on Saturday. I'm not normally at office on the weekends, but this Saturday was a full day for us. We had like 12 complaints just for that day. Wow. That's besides other complaints that we just have. We have medical examinations to be done in cases of minors where it's of a sexual nature. So we do get a lot of complaints. And yes, most oftentimes, because we work closely also with the human development officers from Human Services who deals with child protection. And so we always get reports from them as well that we have to work together on. When it comes to the women's department, women's development officers, most of the time it would be when it has to do with more removals, you know, when they do their part in it.
ASP Reese, one of the main complaints that people have, and it's always hurled at the police department, I can't say if it's DV unit or a uniform officer, but it's that the response that they get when they file a complaint is that it's not taken seriously. Now, understanding the cycle of domestic violence, as we talked about in the show many times, victims very often will return to the perpetrator until there is a breaking point where they get out. How do you respond when you hear people saying, oh, the police say, no, she going right back, I know follow up on that, or seem dismissive of the complaint itself?
Well, the thing is, once we make contact, besides trying to encourage them to make a report, because when it comes to making the report and following through, that is the thing. Because some persons come to the office, and following through means that we actually have to do a written complaint that is signed by you, the person. That does not say that the police will not intervene without that written statement, right? Where there's no statement involved, then we would go to mediation between both parties. And we had recently, our office had recently got an in-house counselor at this is only Belize City, of course. And that counselor came on in November of 2019. And she assists in many instances when it comes to time for mediation. I always tell people, when it comes to following up, when it comes to making complaints, if you think about making the complaints, it does not only have to be in person, it can begin over the phone. Of course, thereafter, you would have to be in person with that complainant.
Is there a mechanism in place? Because what I hear from you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're saying, if there's a situation in a household and the police is called, that doesn't automatically mean there's a complaint on record. The person may choose not to follow up with the police, but the police should and will respond to de-escalate the situation that night, that evening, or that afternoon, right?
Yes, ma'am. And it is always on record. Even if the person does not come to the station, as long as the police responded to a report, it is entered in our system.
What happens subsequently? If there is, let's say, you come in, you de-escalate the situation, and you leave, Is there any follow-up done after?
Well, like I said, that is something that we would really, really want to put in place. Because, but where human resources are concerned, the reports are constant. And we have our focus, because it is not just about doing the report. When it comes to arresting and charging people, we have case files to prepare. It is a whole process.
Okay.
Right? It is a whole process. They come in to make the report. We take a statement. We have them sign it. We have, if there are witnesses involved, then we have to get statements from them as well. We have to compile the case file. We have attendances at court to follow up, right? So,
so you have a team of like 100 officers across the country?
I wish.
What numbers are you looking at?
We're presently at 39 across the country.
How many in Belize City?
In Belize City, it is only 14. In the district, we have 19, because we have in Ladyville, we have an officer in Hatterville, we have, and it's only, and in Ladyville, it is only 2. In Hatterville is 1. In Kikaker, we have 1, and then in San Pedro, we have 1. And in Belize City, it is only 14. And of course, we know persons are entitled to take leave. So if you would calculate that number, you know, when people are leave or out on sick, you have persons attending court. So, all of those factor in when it comes to human resources.
So steadily at about 7.
Steadily, yes.
So Cynthia, I want to get to Cynthia here, because very important conversation. But Cynthia, we've had these conversations a lot of times, but we need to round off the story so people understand exactly what's going on here. One of the things that we always hear, Cynthia, is that when it comes to domestic violence, these couples often just go right back into the nest. What do you think this is, and how can we quell that?
Well, you see, I think one of the things that we have to understand, and Michelle had already started talking about it, because it involves an entire process, and we have talked about the cycle of violence as well. But added to that, the support that many of these persons that are going through violence require is also, in a lot of spaces, non-existent, even from family members. And while Michelle and ESP Race have really described some of the services that are available, and we keep saying, yes, these might not be as much as we may need, but at least there are some. There is a component that often people leave out, or it's very difficult to really engage in, and that is individual accountability as well. The fact that this entire issue of domestic violence is really and truly due to the patriarchal systems that we have in our country. And the fact that, we keep saying that there's an issue of power and control. And that is, the violence is a result of that. Violence is a choice that perpetrators make to ensure that they retain that control and power over the persons. And so, it's a very complex mechanism, because then while we are offering services directly through the Women's Department, the police, the courts as well, we also have to work within the community. We also have to work with families to ensure that we begin to challenge those norms and attitudes that maintain the status quo, and then have women living in these, or other persons living in these type of situations. I think one of the issues that also affect the response is that as individuals, we have our own attitudes and norms. And when the response has gaps and challenges, it is as a result of those attitudes and norms that even persons who are frontline persons then either choose not to respond, or the quality of service that is provided is not good. And then that also then deters persons from actually going through and making reports. Because if I go and make a report and I have in some ways some feelings that, I am being judged, I am not receiving what it is, because at the time I'm not fully ready. All I want is the violence to end. And that is the case with many instances, that all they want is the violence to end. They do want to maintain a relationship with their partners. They do want to live with their partners, but it's the violence that that is the issue that they want to end. And so we also have to ensure that we work with perpetrators, because at the end of the day, they didn't get like that on their own. And this is something that I always say. We as a society have really molded people and the quality and those persons who commit all these heinous crimes at the moment. And so as a society, we have to take a responsibility, and often we don't. And while fingers are often pointed to service providers and to government cannot do it on its own. And this is the role of the National Women's Commission, as Michelle said. While we don't provide direct services, we work very closely with those that do, because we recognize that there has to be somebody that brings everyone together. And through the National Women's Commission, even to the National Committee for Families and Children that deal directly with children issues, we are trying to be able to do that, because service providers can't do everything. As both Marta and Michelle said, the lack or limited human resources is an issue. So we try to advocate then with government and with other international partners to see how we can then bring some closure to some of these gaps and challenges that they face. Because at the end of the day, it has to be a coordinated, multi-sectoral response where we have the women's department speaking with the police, speaking with health, speaking with the judiciary. We all must come together and speak and understand what the challenges each of these areas face.
And you know, what you're talking about, I think, is laying out just all the different areas that there has to be work done, where there is some work taking place, but resources will forever be an issue. I think ASP Reese, really highlighted when you're looking at 12 cases in 12 complaints in one day, and all the work that goes into that and follow-up and the limited staff. So that's one end. Then you talk about the court system. You talk about being able to assist that family if they don't have, even just with psychological support and actual support, financial support. But let's look at the other end for a moment, because I think we're looking, as you're saying, so much at the service providers, but we would need less service providers, or we would have sufficient service providers if we can start to address some of the root issues. And I want to get Michelle in here too, because I know this is a core part of when you talk about women development. It's recognizing how to walk away before it escalates, or early signs, and understanding the relationship dynamics as well, where people stay in situations that that violence becomes normalized.
Exactly.
Yes. I definitely agree with you. No, I would like to point out several things. And one is that I think we have to have more a community response, a country response. We need to be able to have public service messages. We need to have information out there. We need to bombard our society in understanding, using behavior change communications and the approach that allows people to look at the way they're responding, look at the way they're behaving, and understanding that this is not so. This should not be so. And we see in our society, especially the way we construct our gender norms and what we expect of girls and boys being so different, and then continue to accept that boys will respond with violence and girls will be submissive. This is just a general norm that we see.
Yeah.
And even looking at marriage, yesterday I had a case, and the situation was so profound. I mean, it was difficult from the beginning to the end. And the person, the victim, was that, Miss Michelle, all I want to do is to get a divorce, because I don't want him to feel that he owns me. Because he feels that he owns me, and with all the violence that she's been through, her children been through, I mean, physical, psychological, financial, every type of violence, sexual, she was concerned about getting a divorce, which seems insurmountable to her, because we know that sometimes, divorce, well, in Belize, not sometimes, divorce is a Supreme Court matter, and we often need legal representation. Yes. And if you're coming from a village in a community, it's very, very expensive, even for you to reach the town, and then for you to think about how to access legal services.
Yes.
So the challenges are huge. And then we were doing, I also work, I coordinate volunteer with a community-based organization, women's group, and we were doing session with young men, with some boys and women, and the attitudes that this person was young, 18 or 19, and the attitude of ownership in marriage was very much present.
Wow.
And so yes, it was in some ways alarming, because we feel that maybe we have moved away, but when we look back and work with our young people, we realize, like what Cynthia just said, that the patriarchal system is alive and well. And it was difficult for me to explain to them about consent in a relationship, sexual consent. And I had to even pull up the law on marital rape and showing them that there is a law, that even if you're married, and so you realize how much more we have to go. So it is to create a supportive environment in general, while we have this individual service. And for us, all of us who are, I would say, state responders to this situation, we have to continue to ensure that that environment and that education is out there, so that we change the attitude. Because while we're there working, for example, with the victim, you also have the idea of the perpetrator. The perpetrator now is just seem to be left out there, so to speak, and then to perpetrate with other families.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Is somewhere else, not addressing his behavior, because his behavior is quite fine and dandy to him. He's gaining, he has all the good, he does what he wants.
Let's put it into perspective here, because I think that's a critical point.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about being able to help people get out of a situation, a missing element is what's going to be done with the person who inflicts the violence, the perpetrator behind this. Because that's the pattern they've developed in relationships. And so when they move on to the next relationship, they take that pattern with them, and you have another person who's going to fall victim to that.
And I think that is where maybe we have, and we have, it's the weaker aspect of the response, because it really requires a lot of investment to be able to address it. I mean, we've tried in the past a couple, back in 2009, 2010, then we started again a couple of years after, where we started to engage men, not only in terms of being perpetrators, but also being advocates. And 2 years ago, once again, the National Women's Commission, in partnership with the Spouses of the Caribbean Leaders Action Network, ESCLAN, we began again the process of engagement of men. And we were very happy to see that even Power in Dangriga is also being part of the response, because it really needs to be addressed at multiple levels. And like Michelle, we've been doing male workshops, workplace sessions since last month, and really some of the notions and the ideas that come out in these sessions, it really makes me cringe. And it's like, well, what then do we expect of the younger generation? And then what people don't understand also, it definitely has a direct impact on other crimes and other types of violence. Because if violence is the only thing that young people, that children see in the home, then that is what they're gonna do to ensure that they get what they want. It is about power and control. And so we've been trying to really look at how do we engage men. And let me tell you, it is hard. It is very hard. And it's very frustrating, because it almost feels like, we don't want to tell them. We want men to be able to work with men, because even when women work with men, there's a resistance, because it is coming from the other, from women. And so you're here telling me, and that again is another norm, is another way that we have socialized that women are not supposed to be telling men what to do, because then men know better. Men are the ones who are supposed to lead. And so all those are norms, values, and attitudes that are ingrained within us, and really don't allow us to be able to expand the way that we see things, the way we understand things, And one of the things that often we find is that they don't want to be able to let go of those spaces where they then become the leaders. And if you question anything outside of that, there's going to be the resistance. But we're very happy to see at least some improvement and some openness from some men in different age brackets, different ethnic groups, different professions. So it's not like all is bad. We've seen some progress. And I think one of the things that for me personally really helps me when I become frustrated and become overwhelmed by all that is required or is needed to do, and I don't feel like we're moving ahead, is the fact that we have some of them coming forward who want to do work with us. We have some of them who are willing to really question and reflect on their own attitudes, because when you look at the aspect of violence, gender-based violence, it's not only physical, it's not only domestic violence. That is only one of the areas. It is the way we speak about women, even when men speak about women and they're on their own when no woman is present, the way that relegate women even within their lives. And a lot of these things are done unconsciously. And we have to ensure that we bring it out to the open. We make it conscious and have them reflect, is this something that it is good for us as a society? Do we need to ensure that we respect, it's about respect of people's dignity and human rights.
But Cynthia, I'd like to get here because we want for folks to continue to understand what domestic violence is, and of course how it's started. Because you must have signs as to, okay, something is wrong here, and then you flag it there. So let's get to some of the signs. When you see these things happening within the household between couples, we know that, okay, we're veering down the street of domestic violence. What are some of those signs?
Just a minute.
Sure.
And of course, Cynthia will be able to add to some of this, but I think that's a very critical point. And I think just what Cynthia was saying are some of the signs, because the lack of respect, the way women are relegated to certain words and attitude and just this gold digger type, or just this want to get something, just this B word in music, in attitudes, and so that those are some of the very, very start of domestic violence. Because whenever you start to relegate or dehumanize someone, they're not good, there's something is wrong with them, then you are able, and we could see that in any form of violence, in terms of, if we look at racism, if we look at sexism, at any of the isms and schisms, we see that one person who wants to be the dominant person would negate, relegate, and talk about persons in a very derogative manner, so that then now, when they set up that straw man, so to speak, then they're able to burn it down, because that is not good enough. They're not good enough. Women are, they are just these whatever real negative connotations, and so those are the very, very start. And I think we have focused so much on physical violence, for example, sexual violence, that we are not looking at emotional, verbal, and the way that affects a person, both the victim and the potential victim and the potential perpetrator. So if we're looking at boys and girls and the way they talk about each other, the way they look upon each other, not as equal, but as subjects, want to use one and want to be used, those are the start. That's the enabling environment that we have set up. And so really and truly, we live in a society that sets us up for violent relationships. And many times we do not recognize, understand, or even acknowledge psychological abuse that starts with verbal abuse, the way we negatively talk about each other, the way couples referred to their children of their mothers, you know, I mean the mothers of their children, and that kind of thing. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And that is, I think now on the back end, I have been in this for quite some time, but on the back end, I am realizing that that is the most important part of this puzzle. The environment that we have created, and the way how people psyche are set up. And that, I feel, is our biggest challenge, because that is what do not allow them to then get out of the situation or to see it for what it is, a violent situation. So we have to be very careful the way we speak, the way we see people, even in leadership, in the media, in the way we refer to women, the way we refer to men, the way we refer to each other, the way we talk about each other. I think those are some of the issues that are, we need to continue have discussions on this, and for us to all collectively understand that we are all a part of it. And at some point in time, sometimes we do it, even in our professional lives, and so we need to be conscious, or sometimes have a partner to say, Michelle, you can't say that, or you know, you can't say, so like around me people would be, oh, is that PC? Can I say that? You know, and you should be checking people to ensure that it is PC, because then it's the start of it.
And it's okay to ask. It's a learning process. It's unlearning. It's an unlearning process of what we were taught for a very long time was okay. So, but let's come back here, because I think when we talk about undoing what you call the patriarchal structure that is in place, undoing this sense of a power within relationships, that's going to be the hardest work that we keep on chipping away at as we move forward. But then when you see those early signs, and I'm sure ASP Reese and you from Women's Department, and even in your advocacy, Cynthia, when you see those signs and it's a loved one and you cannot get them to leave, what do you do? Maybe it hasn't escalated to violence. Maybe it has, and you just haven't seen it yet. But what can people do so that we don't end up having a tragedy, as we saw over the weekend with Kendra and Aiden, and feeling that sense of guilt and horror and shame as a society that these things are still taking place?
I think one of the first things that needs to happen is not withdraw that support. You know, because at family, and it's understandable, and you know, we feel for families, because often they just want to kind of pluck the person out from that relationship, but at the end of the day, these are persons who are adults, to have self-determination, to make their own decisions. In the case where children are involved, then this is where you do involve Department of Human Services, because if at any point the child or children are being placed at any risk, then the responsibility falls on the state. And so in those cases, Department of Human Services needs to be involved. So they usually do investigation and do an analysis, and then if they have to remove the children and place it with other family members who are willing to support that family, then it has happened. But definitely is not withdrawing the support, because isolation is one of the key tactics and strategies that perpetrators utilize to ensure that the person remains with them, again, as a form of control. And one of the difficult aspects of it is because it's coming from someone you expect would not do it, who you love and who you think loves you. Sometimes it's very difficult because it is coming from an approach of, I care for you. I love you, so I want you to be safe. That's why I need to know exactly where you are at all times. You need to tell me when you leave, when you come out, who are the people that are around you. Those friends don't really want anything nothing good for you, because so all of these are within the confines of being taken care of. And again, we go back to the norms and the values that, you know, in many spaces, women do, you know, that is the role of men. to take care of women, to be able to leave them to do that for women. And that in and of itself is a risk. And so we have to make sure that from very early on, we begin to have these conversations with our daughters and with our sons to help them understand what is right and what is wrong, and hold them accountable to it. I think that is one of the other areas that we don't do well. We always make excuses for people and the behaviors that they exemplify, and we have to stop doing that.
You know, you made a drink, is stressed out.
Right.
We always hear the drinking one, and you know, that's such a key part of the violence that we do see. ASP, yeah, I just wanted to get ASP Reese back into the conversation, because my question to you, you know, while we, and you know, there's some, I'll take responsibility here too. We get to these conversations a few times a year, you know, March for Women's Month, then when we talk about gender-based violence, and when there are these big cases that come up. But it's a teachable moment as well. And it oftentimes feels that the way we respond, we feel like these cases, these extreme acts of violence are far, they don't take place as often. Give us the reality on the ground, ASP Reese. How serious is the situation of domestic violence within households in our country?
Well, it's very, very serious. And a lot of it is physical. If you would look at our year last year, and if you think about it being in a pandemic year, we were over 1,200 cases responded to. And that is only those that were responded to. That is only Belize City we're speaking of.
1,200 in Belize?
Yes, that were 1,200 cases that we responded to. Wow. That is only in Belize City. Wow. And that is...
With your 14 staff members.
And that is only the cases that were responded to from our office, not the ones that we were assisted with by the uniform officers. Wow. And that is not to say that some of those were not repeats, because we do have some parties that we have to be dealing with over and over, and that is not because they're not given advice, because that is also one of our duties, not just to take a report and arrest and charge them. It is also to advise them on what services are available out there for them. Mm-hmm. And when we speak of services, one of the very important things that people don't take seriously is the protection order. Yeah. Right? And when it comes to that, let me get the misconception out there, because there are a lot of people who still think the police are the ones who issues it. The protection order is issued at the family court. Okay. And it is not necessary for a person to come to the police to get one. If they're suffering psychological, sexual, physical, verbal, they can go directly to the family court to apply for one. They do not necessarily have to make a report at the police first. Because when it comes to the orders, the police deal with the enforcement of the orders if it is breached by the party that it is against. Yeah. That is where the police come in, where the orders are concerned. Yeah. The court deals with that. It is up to the magistrate to issue it. The persons would usually go there, make an application. The magistrate would hear both parties and issue it. So the other party knows what are the conditions in that order. And if it is breached, then they are arrested and charged by the police. A complaint is made, because every order that is issued by the family court, a copy is sent to the police. So we know everyone who has an order against them.
Now, ASP, let me ask you, what about when there are children involved? Yeah. Is it a situation where you know, adults in relationships are one thing, but when there's a child, even if you haven't proven that they are they're victims of the violence, even being witness, that's a crime being done to them. Is there anything that happens to ensure that child's safety? And I'm talking not just physical safety, but psychological safety.
Yeah.
Well, normally that aspect is dealt with by the Human Services Department. We do assist, and if they have to be removed, then we would assist the Human Services Department in that. But they deal with, as Ms. Cynthia said, the Human Services Department deal with the aspect of child protection. So that is, that they deal with that, and whatever services they request from us, the police, then we assist them with that.
And
if there's no official complaint made.
And I think it was either Michelle or Cynthia who pointed it out earlier, that children who witness this type of violence in the home, they are even more likely, you could tell me what the studies say, but I know it anecdotally, that they are even more likely to become perpetrators or victims.
Yes, and I think there are not enough systems in place where perpetrators are concerned. You know, yes, the law has it in the Domestic Violence Act that the magistrate can put in a counseling order. You know, for that, mandatory for that person to take counseling. All right. You know, and that has to be reported back to the court if that person did access it. You know, and so that is one of the good things there, that they can order that counseling, because a lot of people need that. They need to be able to identify that they're doing something wrong, that what they're doing is not normal. And they need to learn to know how to change, how to address the issues that they're dealing with.
Following tragedies like what we saw with Kendra and Aiden, there's a lot of blame that goes around. But let me ask you, to close us off for today's series, what do we as a society need to do to play our part in addressing the situation?
Well, when it comes to that, we have our hotline numbers. 911 is still one, but when it comes to the hotlines, and these are the things, I think we would need one countrywide. But because the hotline that we have here, it is only in Belize City that we would have that quick response. Because anybody else that calls us from the district and the hotline number, we have two numbers. We have one for smart users, and we also have one for the BTL users. We have the 0800 number, a way out, 2929-688. And then we have the smart numbers, which is a way out to 976, 672, and that is 96882 for both users. And it does not necessarily have to be the person that is enduring this violence to make the complaint. We will engage either way, even if it is a third party, a concerned member of the society, of the family. We will engage. It is how we go about it further, you know, and giving them advice if they do not wish to. Because one thing we know, if somebody is experiencing domestic violence, then we have to get that person alone. You know, because we can't speak to them in front of the perpetrator. So we have to find ways and means how to reach out to that person without putting them in jeopardy as well. You know, so we do that. We find ways, if the family member has a phone number, because we can call out to our victims, and we do that. We follow up with them. If they made a report and they're not following up on it, we reach out to them. We would call them. You know, you need to bring, because one of the things they like to do, they like to come, and then we give them the form to seek medical assistance, and they would not return. Wow. And we would call back to them, you know, what do you want? And if they do not want to continue with it, then we give them advice on what they can do to assist us. But Cynthia taught something very, very crucial, and family support is very, very, very important. Because if you have nowhere to go, then, and that is one of the things that keep them going back.
Well, we appreciate,
support is very important.
Well, we appreciate that reminder, what we can do as families and what we can do as a community. Ladies, we are out of time. It's always an important conversation to be had, and we hope that it reminds us as a wider society that we too have a part to play in ending the gender-based violence we see in society. Thank you all. Continue the hard work that you do, and stay safe.
Thank you. And
thank you as well.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right.
Well, we're about to take a break. When we come back, we'll be chit-chatting with a life coach to tell us about the importance of having a vision and taking control of your mind, actually, to achieve it. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
We are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us. Then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something. The Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. Stronger together. The Belize Bank. Our country. Your bank.
As we continue to enhance customer experience, the Social Security Board is proposing the use of biometrics. Biometrics is the measurement of a person's unique physical characteristics, such as fingerprints and facial features, used to establish and verify that you are who you say you are. Biometrics will ensure services are provided to the right person at the right time, making customer transactions easier and secure. Identity management with biometrics will be easier. It allows us to quickly and accurately confirm your identity when accessing any of our services, from the moment a person is registered to the moment the payment of a benefit is made. With biometrics, fraud will be minimized by easily identifying those who pose a security risk. The enhancement of customer services to you means no more filling out of forms, no more presentation of an ID, and decreased waiting time. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
2020 taught us the importance of being connected to the virtual world, and NextGen is here to keep its commitment to you. Even if you're physically apart, NextGen keeps you digitally connected.
Okay everyone, thank you for following me today.
NextGen provides more than just an internet plan. They provide service plans that support all your online needs. Sign up today and get your NextGen's ultra high-speed internet service. NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Wow.
Oh my God, she drunk. No, hurry, I got this.
My goodness.
Oh my gosh, it's the artist.
Being the hardest. Stay the artist. But you had way more than 2 drinks tonight, love, which is a legal limit to drive. What about you? Can you drive?
Well, I was drinking soft drink all night, so I can drive her home. Thanks, Bree.
Of course you say, you know I got you, you're my girl.
That's what I like to see. Friends don't let friends drive drunk. Cause you can't replay in a real life. Stig says so. Can't replay in a real life.
Are back. Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're now moving into our second segment. Now, this one is a conversation with a life coach. Now, this life coach will be telling us about the importance of having a vision and taking control of your mind to achieve it. In with us, life coach Melanie Escalante. Mel, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, there we go.
We are happy to have you. We hope you're hearing us clearly now. But this is a conversation we are looking forward to. It's always a great time to get some motivation going.
Yeah.
And you come equipped with all the tips to help us.
Well, you know, just seeing a little bit, I didn't see all, but a little bit of the previous segment, and, you know, just thinking about things that are happening today, it's not lost on me that I saw a poster yesterday for the Ministry of Education Symposium today, talking about reimagining the future. And of course, we had the wonderful news yesterday that Dr. Carla Barnett has been appointed as the Secretary General to CARICOM.
Yeah.
And she was instrumental. She was the leader of the Horizon 2030, which was visioneering for Belize, a future for Belize for 2030, back in 2010. And so, you know, looking at the conversation this morning and looking at the fact that people are challenged. It's challenging times coming out of the pandemic, but life in itself can be challenging. And a way to make life better, for me, my bias is through visioneering, is having a vision for a compelling future, creating something for ourselves, imagining life to be better, and then putting things in place to get there. And, you know, the Bible tells us in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we're talking about this morning, like domestic violence, would just be one symptom of maybe perishing, you know, that if we left our mind to go to these places, we can find ourselves in a place where we're kind of hopeless and we do things that are not good for us. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm grateful to be here. Like I said, it's not lost on me that I'm here today. Yeah. And I think whoever's listening to this today, that we're all here for a reason today. And we do want to move ourselves to a place of how can we create better for ourselves? Can we get a better vision for ourselves?
Melanie, I'm so grateful for what you've just stated, because that's part of why we feel that this conversation is so timely. When things get difficult, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And right now, people are talking about pay cuts. They're looking at a distressed economy. They're concerned about health, and that there are all these fears that are happening. And you can be so weighed down by the challenges of today that you no longer have that same vision or connection with the future that you may want or have wanted. So we're hoping that today you can give us some tips on how to reconnect with that, how to keep people motivated even when things get tough.
Yeah, and so thank you, indeed. We do get lost in the trials and tribulations of life. And so it is important for us to, when we create a vision for the future, that we really work towards making it something that we want, and not just something that we want for ourselves, but something that we want that's going to make a change in our circumstances, whether it's in our community, whether it's in our country, whether it's in the region or in the world, that we can imagine better. And if we can imagine better, then we have the imagination to create a plan to move us to a better place. And I do want to make the point, I see you showing a slide there about instantaneous change. Instantaneous change is possible, you know, because it's just a matter of making a choice in your mind. And if you want things to be better, then let's start looking at a vision of the future. You know, I have there that what is a compelling vision? So obviously a vision is a mental picture of the future, but a compelling vision is then where it's an improved future, it's a more productive future, and it's an effective future. And you'll notice there that I spelled useful in 2 words purposely, because I want us to think about it as a future where it's fully used, that we're using ourselves fully and we're using our resources fully, but that it's also useful, as in useful to others, that it's beneficial to all. And you know, when you go into that space in your mind, you can, in your mind, create the instantaneous change. So if you're kind of stuck in that place of things are hard, I'm not saying it's not hard, you know, but you can go into your mind and say, okay, things are hard, so what can I do about it? What do I really want? Where do I want to be? And then what can I do to get there? You know, so this is how we make it compelling, because we really need to get into that why. Why do we want it? What will it do for us? Yeah. And why do we want what it will do for us? And then what is important about that for us? Yeah. So just for example, if we're looking for a state change for Belize, and we want a Belize where people are empowered and people are thriving, then we want to ask ourselves, why do we want that? And we'll say, well, maybe what is today is something that we don't want. And we want to help people live life to their full potential. And what would that do for us if people are living their life to their full potential? And then we'd see that people are happy, people are thriving, including myself. You know, I would be in that space as well. And if I'm in that space of thriving, what is important about that? It's basically just that. You know, we get this opportunity to be fully who we are. We get this opportunity to experience all the goodness of life and to be creators and solutionaries in the problems and the challenges, thereby fulfilling our potential. Yeah. And so we get really into, if I don't do this, I see I have this vision, if I don't do it, then what's at risk is me living to my full potential, is me living life to the fullest. And so I can't afford to let life get me down. I can't afford to let these circumstances get in the way. So in spite of the circumstances, I must continue with my vision.
Yeah. You know, when I saw your slides, I loved that particular direction. The idea of establishing your why. You know, there are books on this. There's a book called Start With Your Why by Simon Sinek, and it's so powerful when you think of it, because once you lose sight of why you're doing something, it is a very tough spot to come out of. And I don't want to skip directly to just saying, you know, find your why again. Again, going back to it. So for people today who are looking at life, you know, and they have all their concerns, and we talk about reestablishing that vision for themselves, what are some tried and true tips of how to move past I think you said it before, things are bad, okay, now what? How do you get yourself there?
You know, it is interesting because it's really about asking yourself, what do you want?
Yes.
So, you know, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if you're focusing on things are hard, then you're going to be focusing on the things that come up for you are going to be more of the hard, you know? So it's really kind of asking yourself what you want. And quite honestly, people have been stuck in the underwhelm, the overwhelm, the sense of a lack of control, lack of confidence. So we're not denying that, but if we can acknowledge that we are creative, we are creators, we do have imagination. Some of us may have not used our imagination for a long time, but we do remember as children that we were very imaginative, you know. So if we can use our imagination to look at the things that have brought us joy in life, the things that are meaningful for us, the things that we'd like to see change, you know, what is it that we want? And then what is it that we want to see as a result of our contribution, as a result of our participation in the world? What is the outcome you're looking for? What is the impact you're looking for? Those are some of the questions that you can ask. What is the future state that you desire for yourself, for your family, for your business? You know, wherever you're engaging, if you're a volunteer in voluntary services, what is the future state that you want to see for that? And so I talk about least challenging, most challenging parts of this. The least challenging part is the visioneering part. But I do want to say that because for most of us, as we've got older, we haven't used our imagination that much, it's kind of become unfamiliar to us to use it. So it's about staying in that space. It's about insisting to yourself that you stay in the space to answer the questions of what do you really want.
It's like people who start an exercise routine. You wake up one day and you can go for a run. But are you going to wake up every day after that and go for a run?
Yeah, sorry, Marlene, I didn't hear you.
I was saying it's like people who wake up one day and start to exercise. But are they going to wake up every day and start to exercise?
Indeed. And, you know, if you can, it's not possible for everybody because, you know, we're talking about coming out of the pandemic and it's been challenging times, and we've kind of started to condition our minds a bit to the difficulties and the frustration, and even, dare I even visualize something because I don't know what tomorrow brings. This pandemic has brought so much uncertainty for us. But if we can practice and keep practicing, asking ourselves and insisting to ourselves that we answer that question, if we can find somebody, a friend, a colleague, a mentor, that we can start bouncing these ideas off and just continue to explore and let your mind open, that imagination will return.
It comes across, you know, reading, having conversations about exactly what you'd want. You know, I think these are great conversations to eventually try and give you that vision. But Mel, I also wanted, you know, after reading your slides this morning earlier, I thought to myself, man, the state of what the country is in, and for for a lot of people who actually focuses on getting what they want from GOB, are they able to recognize a vision or even recognize what a vision is? How do you recognize what your vision is?
Well, yeah. First of all, I want to suggest that we don't necessarily look to others to have the solutions for us. So, you know, that we're not so much looking at what we want from others, but what we want to see, the outcome we want to see in the world, the impact that we want to have, and then putting our creative minds to use to that end. And so it's really an inward journey, and it's an inward responsibility. You know, I used to have a poster in my office that I loved at the time, and it was 10 two-letter words to live by. If it is to be, it is up to me.
Wow.
So, you know, for want of a better explanation, and not wanting to get so much into this current issue of, let's say, the 10%, you know, is there other things that we can do in our lives to be more in control of our lives and not subject to, so, you know, is there something that we can do in the evenings, for example, that may be even more lucrative than what we're doing during the daytime? You know, is there something that we can work towards? Can we increase our value, you know, in the education system, even if we're talking about that, or in the public service, for example, you know, how can we increase our value? How can we add more, bring more, so that we can receive more, you know, because it's in giving that we receive.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's you know, when you talk about if it's the be, it's up to me, it's kind of reestablishing your own power. And when things get difficult, you can look around and play that blame game. Oh, you know, it's the economy, it's the job, it's the this, it's the that. But then regaining that sense of power and turning back to yourself can be a challenging process. And what would you say are some of the things that people can ask themselves how to reestablish their own power?
I think it's really recognizing, first of all, like I said earlier, that you are a creative being. You know, you are created to create. Yeah. And so it's really just getting back to that. What do I want and why do I want it? And it's trying to acknowledge maybe that you're part of something bigger. You know, I heard Michelle and Cynthia talking about the community responsibility. You know, that we're here to work together. We're here to make life better, not only for ourselves, but for others. And so if we can, and I do want to mention this because I was going to mention it earlier when we talked about the education symposium and reimagining the future, that it would be a wonderful thing if education systems around the world would acknowledge and realize this innate skill, this a part of the human, part of being human is to create. And so to encourage, so as opposed to just putting on children knowledge, encourage them to draw out their creativity, encourage them to look at what they know about themselves and how they're presenting in the world and how that can be a contribution to the world. So, I mean, obviously the education is a good place to start, but you're also talking about the fact that adults now are in this place where they've lost that connection to that creative place. But I just want to assure that it's there. And so it's really the willingness to go there and to look to yourself to say, how can it be? How can I be? Am I being all that I need to be in order to create what I want and what I see is possible?
Wow. I'm blown away by some of the things that we're learning here from you, Mel, simply because it comes across as shaping out what your future is, will be or going to be. It reminds me of our eye-opener from this morning, exactly where we started, whereby fear of the future can paralyze us, but we can allow it to unfold easily when we keep to the present moment. What to you does that mean, Cynthia? Mel?
Well, you know, going back to the slides that I had talking about what's easy and what's hard about this is the hard part is the hard part is that our mind is conditioned. So recognizing that our mind is conditioned from various experiences in our lives, things that people have told us. You know, people might have told us, oh, you're not creative, you can't sing, or you're a waste of time, or you're always making trouble. You know, different things that people have put on us, or maybe we had a challenge in a math class when we were at school, and so we decided because we got a bad grade once that we're not good at math, and so, you know, we've created these programs that run subconsciously in our minds.
Yes.
And we need to recognize that there is this habitual part of us. There is this conditioning part of us. So we need to then look at some of those things that I mentioned to you, is like, who do I need to be? you know, what character traits do I need to have? What values do I need to have? And then how can I get them? And when I look at how I can get them, then I need to do the work. And this is why I said it's the most challenging, because I need to do the work to condition my mind to becoming that person, to having those values, to living those character traits. Practice, 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 because this is how you get something in your subconscious mind. How you get to condition your mind is by repetition, doing something over and over again. And so you have to initially go through that exercise of effort. And it's tremendous effort, because the conditioning that you already have is working against you.
Yeah.
Because the habit is to be somebody else, to do something else. Yeah. And so you've got to do that work to initially create a new program, a new habit of being that best version of yourself. And once you've got the program in, people say 21 days to create a habit, some say up to 60 days to create a habit. But once you've done that and you've put in that work to be intentional about that, the habit, as you know, as all of us know, is unconscious.
Yeah, it's autopilot.
It's effortless. You don't have to do anything for that.
Yeah. Wow. It is autopilot, and I'm so glad you said that. There's what we have always done, and oftentimes when you want to change that, you can never shy away from the amount of work and effort it's going to take. And you may, and if you're consistent, you'll be able to reach that autopilot phase, but it comes after the work and effort. Yeah.
Wow. Mel, this is just so amazing to be able to focus on exactly the importance of having a vision and taking control of your mind to achieve it. Now, is that a difficult thing to do, to take control of your mind to actually achieve what you want to achieve?
Well, I think this is what we just referenced there, John, is that conditioning your mind, it can be simple, you know. In that, for example, when you were a child, maybe you had an experience of something that frightened you, and it was so frightening that so quickly it went into your mind that you decided afterwards, I'm scared of snakes or I'm scared of spiders, and that has been the program for life. Yeah. And yet we see people who are naturalists, who are environmentalists, that are so much at ease with tarantulas and even poisonous snakes and what have you, right? They can manage those things. They don't have that fear. And so, you know, if we just recognize that we're built, first of all, to have choice. So we've got two parts to our minds. One is like our thinking mind, where we can make these decisions, where we can imagineer and look at what we want and who we want to be. But we have to acknowledge that most of the way we run our lives is from that autopilot, is from that conditioning. And so that's where we go back to, once we've decided what it is and who we need to be, then we must do the work for the conditioning, because if we're not there already, it means our conditioning, our current conditioning, is not serving us. You know, there's a philosopher by the name of Osho, and he says, mind, the beautiful servant, a dangerous master. Ooh. And so if your mind is conditioned badly, it will be that dangerous master, and you will experience things that don't serve you. Yeah. And then if you condition it well, it can become your beautiful servant.
You know, we had our motivational quote or eye-opener this morning that touched exactly on that, and how our fears oftentimes direct the narrative that we tell ourselves. And very often we have to question those very same things we tell ourselves about ourselves. And that's exactly what comes to mind when you speak of that specific quote. We have perhaps decided that something is too hard, or decided or believed that we can't do something. And we are the only ones who can challenge it. No amount of cheerleaders on the outside can change that but us.
Exactly. You know, so it really is kind of asking ourselves, how is that serving us? You know, how is thinking like that serving us? How is that going to get us to where we want to go? How is being like this going to get me the goals that I'm aiming for. And in the slide that you just had up there, you'll notice I had the reference to the Bible again there with Romans 12:2, talking about be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And right at the beginning of the slides, with the intro there is just saying the transformational power of a compelling vision. And so there is a vision aspect, and then there is the transforming your mind, and that is what is going to take you to your vision. You must do the work to transform your mind. And I want to make the point that the Bible says it's not a suggestion that you can be transformed, and it's not saying if you want. It's really an instruction. It starts with the word be. So it's telling us, be transformed. So it's suggesting maybe the way we are is not all that we can be, but we can be transformed by the renewing of our minds.
Wow. Melanie Escalante. Wow. Blown away by what you've shared with us this morning. We want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning. And here's to wishing you a very, very good day.
Thank you so much. God bless. Bye-bye.
All right, we're about to take a break. When we come back, we're still raising funds for our brothers and sisters in our sister Caribbean nation of St. Vincent. As you know, they're suffering from the effects of volcano La Sophia. There's a run that is being coordinated, Run for St. Vincent, or St. Vincent Run. We'll be joined by the organizer when we come back.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking, and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at
Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite Vibe calling plan. We use it interbranch, we use it to call outside, and we also use it to call international. It's far cheaper than what we used to have before. Our new PBX box is new. So the PBX is very good because I can call to my Sartaneja branch, I can call to my Kikaka branch, I can call to San Pedro branch, and there's no cost using the PBX. Actually right now, since we're in different locations, I can call main office from where I am at a no cost using the PBX system. I would recommend it, sure I would, especially the big enterprises who has a lot of employees. There's a lot of reduction in costs, 50% of saving. Put that on a year, it's a lot of money that we're saving. Money that we could return to our members, since we give back dividend to our members.
Visit our showroom or call 670-6710 to find out how Smart's corporate plan and PBX systems can benefit your business. Consultation is free.
Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're moving now into our third and final segment for the morning. Like I mentioned to you going out to the break, our sister Caribbean nation, St. Vincent, they need our help as well. And so there is a run that is being organized to raise funds to help them out. As you know, they've suffered with the effects of volcano La Sofia, and we've got our folks in to tell us all about this run. Now, Colin Estrada, who is one of the organizers, and of course we've got Dr. Jeremy Cayetano in with us as well. Guys, good morning and welcome.
Good morning and thanks for having us.
Wow, you guys practiced that last night or this morning. It happened.
So in sync.
So, you know, we're totally cognizant of the situation that's going on there, and it continues, of course. We do know that they need a lot of help there in St. Vincent. And our other countries are trying their best to help out, but the efforts need to be continued. So, Colin, tell us about this run and how you came up with it.
Well, the run is because of something that is bigger than us, John.
Okay.
And we can't just sit back and say, something that how our brothers within the Caribbean, they're suffering and don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Dr. Cayetano and the roommate group, Dr. Cayetano said, something, you need to be a part of this. And so I was brought in by her, and so I let her explain the impetus of it and what happened, because she was the one who brought me into it as one of the founding organizers.
Dr. Kai?
Is it the Urume group, you said?
Urume Project.
Oh,
The name of
Urume
our
Project.
organization is the Urume Project.
Okay.
And the word Urume means St. Vincent. So
wow.
You could see why we would have been moved to get involved when this happened. If I may just say a little bit about the Urume Project.
Yes.
The last time I was on Open Your Eyes, I don't know if you guys remember, I was the principal of San Pedro Ecumenical, and we were there with a gentleman called Mr. James Curtis from St. Vincent, who lives in Philadelphia, and insisted that some young people from Dangriga run in the Philadelphia pen relays because of the connection between St. Vincent and Dangriga.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys remember
I
that.
remember now, yes, yes.
Right. So we continued having conversations about Garifuna culture, Garifuna language that has been removed from St. Vincent by force, but we won't talk about that today. But and getting it back into St. Vincent, and in talking about it and in planning it, we realized how lacking we were, or we are, in the proficiency of our own language. And so that long-term goal of getting the language in St. Vincent became a personal mission for us to be more fluent in our language, because as educators, we can't teach what we don't know very well.
Yeah.
So we have launched into language preservation, teaching ourselves, and by extension, teaching others. We have online classes in Garifuna as we prepare to go to Urume. Wow. We were supposed to go in 2020, COVID, to teach.
and then we were supposed to go in 2021 volcano.
Wow.
But we still continue with our efforts. Now, we couldn't just not do anything when the volcano erupted and we were seeing and hearing from our UMA counterparts what's happening there.
Yeah.
So 2 of our group members, our UMA project group members, Senator Erica Jang and Mr. Gary Francisco, they came with the idea. They said, why don't we do a run? Now, we know we wanted to fundraise, we didn't know exactly what we wanted to do. And when they said do a run across the country, like every district, like some municipality in every district, do a run, and let's send the proceeds to St. Vincent, we said, let's go.
Yeah.
And so we began to organize, and that's how we contacted folks across the country who we believe could help us with this venture, and that's where it started.
And Dr. Caetano, you know, the connection goes even deeper, because one of the things about the area that's been affected in St. Vincent is that it is it's rural communities and predominantly Garifuna communities.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's
and they have been displaced from their homes. A lot of them are in shelters or in family homes, and we want to send some sort of relief. We want to send money so that they can buy water, food, necessities. Yeah. We don't want to send things. It's so far away to be so expensive to send things.
That's right.
But yes, so yes.
So how are you planning to raise funds through the run?
All right, several ways. One, we are asking businesses to sponsor, corporate businesses, anybody. Sponsor, they can sponsor, and they can have persons on the run. 2, you can register to run. Registering to run costs $10. 3, you can buy one of our t-shirts. We're selling t-shirts for $25 that we are hoping that people will wear on the run. So that's the way we're hoping to raise money for it.
And the organization across the country, that's your challenge, Colin?
We have organization. We are in Corozal. We're in Orange Walk. We're also in San Pedro, Belmopan, Punta Gorda, Dangriga, and Belize City. So we have in those areas where we're going to be. So, for example, if you want to run in Corozal, then you're able to contact Matias Casanova at 610-5475. In Orange Walk, you can contact Patricia Arana at 615-8651. And then if you're running in San Pedro, there is Eden Velasquez at 634-1074. Elsie Whitty at 632-0242, and Helen Melendres at 603-0721. And in Belmopan, we have Joshua Arana, he's at 671-2672, and Alexander Lacario, who is 638-8786. And Punta Gorda, we have Mrs. Harriet Lino, she's at 615-8989. Dangriga, we have Senator Jang, and she's at 610-8526. Gary Francisco, 610-9372. And also Gwen Eunice Gonzalez, 621-4097. And in Belize City, you have Mrs. Francisca Thomas. She's at 615-2099. Dr. Caetano, 614-1247. And myself, 604-3647.
So in terms of taking part, you pay online, or do I have to reach out to somebody to pay? And how long is the run?
We're looking, our organizer told us that how we're looking at a total of practically 6 months.
Okay.
6 months.
Okay. So
10K, somewhere around 10K, yeah.
Yeah. So like for Belize City, if I should go to Belize City, we will start off at in front of Wesley College, and then we're going to go down Port, do the Carnival route, and then go to a
Memorial Park.
Princess Market Drive, and then go to a Memorial Park.
Okay.
There is where we're going to culminate. And so for Punta Gorda, we do Elridge to Central Park, and then Belmopan, you do the Art Box to the Governor General Field, and then you have San Pedro, Central Park to Victoria House and back, and then Orange Walk, you're going to do in Central Park, and you go around Orange Walk, running to Central Park and returning to Central Park, and then Corozal would be from the entrance of Corozal to the Rainbow. So those are some of the areas that we have.
So everybody's running on the same day in the different districts?
Yes.
And at the same time?
At the same time, 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, nice.
That's cool.
Okay. So there is a Facebook page where people can sign up, and you also have a bank account if people can, if they want to make donations as well.
Yes, there is.
Okay. And can you show up on...
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The Facebook page is SCEC SVG Urme Project. That's the name of the Facebook page. SCEC stands for Anglican Ecumenical College, where the Urme Project was born.
Okay.
And SVG, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the page is SCEC and SVG Urme Project. That's the name of the Facebook page. You can register there, or you could simply go to the starting line a little bit before 5:30. Somebody will be there in each municipality to help you to register and to collect your registration fee.
All right. Well, now we know exactly what to do. This run is tomorrow morning at 5:30.
Saturday.
No,
Saturday morning.
Saturday.
I feel like it's a
You
Friday.
started the show at Monday and you end the show at Friday.
The run is Saturday morning at 5:30 throughout each municipality from Corozal all the way down to Punta Gorda. It's only a 6-mile run. And register is only $10. And to get a T-shirt, you pay what?
$25. If you do both, if you want a T-shirt and you want to run, it's $30. You get a discount if you do both.
All right. Sounds good. Guys, thank you so very much. And the flyers, of course, on social media. We've been seeing that. And thank you so very much for joining us this morning to tell us all about this fundraising effort.
Thank you, too, for having us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you. Well, we're about to take our final break of the morning. When we come back, we will be wrapping things up. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
I believe that no society can fully develop while marginalizing women. Development can only be successful when it is inclusive and equitable for all. The relationship between women and men must be built on equal power, real partnership, and mutual respect. If people work together, we can bring an end to gender-based violence.
Back.
Our newscast later on this evening at 6:30 as we continue to highlight news stories that occurs throughout the week. And of course, we would like to thank you. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. We're so grateful that you're able to start your morning right with us. If you've got any questions, any concerns, drop us a line at oye@channel5belize.com.
All right, you can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize.
That's right. You can join us again tomorrow morning when you open your eyes
to start your morning right.
As per usual, you keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.